Hey everyone, welcome back for another deep dive.
Always a pleasure to be here.
Today we're going to be looking at the rise of remote work tech tools.
Right.
All these new platforms and software designed to help people work together from anywhere.
It's a really fascinating space right now.
Yeah, and honestly, there's so much to unpack here, so let's just jump right in. One thing that kind of blew my mind is just how widespread this has become. Like, we're not talking about a few niche apps here. One of the reports we looked at said there was a 400% increase
Wow.
in the use of certain project management tools since 2020.
Yeah, I mean, you really saw that take off during the pandemic.
Totally. And it makes sense, right? Suddenly everyone's forced to work from home.
Yeah.
But what's interesting is even as things have started to open back up, remote work has stuck around.
Absolutely. And I think that speaks to the fact that this isn't just a pandemic blip.
Right.
Technology has evolved to a point where we can do this effectively.
Yeah.
And at the same time, worker expectations have shifted. People are really valuing flexibility and autonomy.
Absolutely. So, okay, let's talk about some of the actual tools because there are tons out there.
Yeah.
One that caught my eye was Miro.
Oh, yeah, Miro's great.
Have you used that one?
Yeah, definitely. It's basically a virtual whiteboard.
Right.
So you can brainstorm, you can plan projects, but what makes it really powerful is that it integrates with all these other tools.
Yeah, I saw that it works with Slack and Asana and a bunch more.
Exactly. So it really becomes like a central hub for all your work.
Which is kind of amazing when you think about it because in some ways that's even better than being in the office.
Right, because in the office, you're still limited by physical space, You've got to all be in the same room to look at the same whiteboard. But with something like Miro,
Anyone can contribute from anywhere.
yeah, it's very cool.
And I think that really highlights the potential for increased productivity with these tools.
Yeah, and I think we're just scratching the surface of what's possible.
Definitely. But of course, it's not all sunshine and roses.
Right.
There are definitely some potential downsides. One that really stood out was digital overload.
Oh, yeah, that's a big one.
There was one study that said remote workers are actually attending like 13% more meetings than they were pre-pandemic.
It's crazy, right?
Which is just wild. And it's not just meetings. It's the constant Slack messages, emails, notifications.
It's exhausting.
It really is. And, I think it can make it tough to disconnect from work.
Absolutely. It blurs those boundaries between work life and personal life.
Yeah. And honestly, I've definitely struggled with that myself.
Yeah, it's a constant challenge.
Figuring out how to set those boundaries and make sure you're not always on.
Yeah, and that actually ties into another challenge that we saw in the research, which is building team cohesion remotely.
Yeah, that makes sense, right? If you're not interacting face to face.
It's harder to build those relationships.
It can be harder to trust each other, to feel like you're really part of a team.
Right. And it requires a lot more intentional effort from managers and leaders to foster that sense of community.
And there are companies out there doing really interesting things to try to address this, right?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Like virtual team building activities and stuff.
Yeah, virtual team building. Some are even experimenting with virtual reality, which I think is really interesting.
Yeah. All this just makes me wonder what the future holds for remote work tech.
Me too. It's evolving so rapidly. I think one of the big questions is going to be the role of AI.
Right.
Will we see more tools that can automate tasks and help us manage our time more effectively?
Yeah. Or maybe even tools that can help us combat digital overload. Like imagine a program that can analyze your work patterns and tell you when you need to take a break.
That would be amazing, wouldn't it?
Honestly, that's a product I would buy right now.
Yeah, sign me up.
So, yeah, I think there's a lot to be excited about, but also a lot of challenges to navigate.
Definitely.
And, this is where I'd love to hear from you, our listener. What are your experiences with remote work tech? What tools have you found helpful or maybe even not so helpful?
Let us know. We'd love to hear your thoughts.
Exactly. So leave us a comment or send us an email. We're always looking for interesting perspectives.
And as we wrap up this deep dive, I think the big question is what's next?
Right.
Remote work is clearly here to stay.
Yeah.
So what new innovations and challenges can we expect in the realm of remote work technology?
Lots to ponder.
Definitely.
And we've just scratched the surface today.
But hopefully this gives you some good food for thought.
Exactly. And if you're interested in digging deeper, we've got links to all the source material in the show notes.
So be sure to check those out.
Thanks for joining us for this deep dive, and until next time, happy working, wherever that may be.
See you then!